Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining our session in our weekly webinar series. Every Wednesday at 10 a.m., we host a 30-minute conversation with our leaders in education to understand where they're having success and what tips they can apply to your work. So for today, we have 3 goals for our time together. The first is to have fun. The second is to learn one new thing, and the third is to make a friend. My name is Shay Awasanya. I'm the community manager here at Parsec. And unlike normal webinars, we really want our webinars to be interactive. So please leave your video on. And if you have any questions or comments, you can drop them in the chat, and then we'll have Kim read them out. Last week in our webinar, we were joined by Leela Dunmore, who is principal at Evergreen Institute of Excellence. We talked about how she was able to share data with her staff, students, and families to be able to take meaningful action. And then next week, we'll have Chasmin Moses, who is founder of Life I Love School, which is an after-school program that places wellness coaches in historically marginalized communities. And she'll be talking about how she used Parsec Reel to gather feedback from the girls to transform her program. And then with that, we know that the reality budget pressures are real, right, for all of you guys. So at our next year's summit, we're going to be bringing together leaders, board members, and educators with one focus, which is how do we align every dollar to what matters the most, which is, of course, student outcomes. So our keynote speaker, AJ Crable, will unpack strategies from his book, Great on Their Behalf, to help you talk about how we can deliver your ROI. And you can purchase your tickets today to join the conversation that leaders will be having. And then Kim will be dropping the link in the chat. If you have any questions, you can email hello@parseceducation.com. So before we get into the webinar, really excited to see everyone's faces here. I want to just take some time to shout out any of our first-time guests. So if you guys are new to our webinars, if you could just put a 1 in the chat, just so that we know. And if you're not, we want to welcome back our returning guests. We're happy to have you guys on here. Kim, do we have any first-time guests?
We do. Welcome for the first time, Karina, Michelle, Jeffrey, Priyanka. Please correct me if I said that wrong.
Welcome, everyone. We're excited to have you on our series today. So with that, I'm going to introduce our speaker for today. We have our very own Tim Farrow. Tim serves as our Director of Technology at Parsec Education. And before Parsec, he ran a software development company that specialized in building custom applications for school systems in California Central Valley. Today, he'll be talking through how AI can serve as a material enhancement for personalized learning. So with that, Tim, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thanks so much, Shay. So everybody, thank you so much for joining. I've been working in education technology for the last 10 years. But before I started working in education technology, my first job actually was as a tutor. I loved working as a tutor. It's actually how I fell in love with education. I worked with students across many different grade levels, across many different subject areas, and they had very different needs. But I noticed that the one thing that motivated me to come into work every single day was helping those students get to that aha moment where I knew that they had actually understood the material and that they had just learned something that they'd be able to apply in the classroom and beyond the classroom. Interestingly, for me, I found that in that pursuit of the aha moment, I typically struggled with a lot of the same things. All of the sessions were scheduled back to back, 1 hour after the other. And the preparation time for any of those sessions wasn't compensated. So I would have to do that beforehand on my own time. Because the blocks were cut into just an hour, there were several occasions where I realized that a student could get a lot of value out of just a few more repetitions or just a little bit more time that could help take them from having enough understanding to pass a test into actually mastering that material. But there wasn't enough time to do that. So one specific student that I had been tutoring actually for many years, and he was a math student. He was a very good math student, And when he entered into Algebra 2, he suddenly started to really, really struggle with math. And of all the things that he struggled with, what he struggled with most was word problems. So as we worked through these word problems, I realized that if he could get a system of equations from the word problem, he could solve it every single time. It wasn't the math that was difficult for him. It was translating a word problem into a math or a set of functions that he could actually resolve. By the end of the session, we had progressed to a point where he had successfully done it once, but I knew that if we couldn't get in a few more repetitions, he was going to lose that. And the next session that we had, we were going to basically have to start over from zero. With just 5 minutes left in the session, I frantically Googled trying to find sample problems, sample word problems, so that he could get a few more of those iterations in. And they were out there, but they were all behind paywalls that I wasn't able to afford. Especially if I wanted to do that for each one of my students, there was no way for me to be able to cover such a vast amount of material. So I took out a pen, and in the last 5 minutes of the session, I just wrote out a bunch of word problems myself. They probably weren't very good for him. It hurt my hand quite a bit to frantically scribble them out as quickly as I could. But I told him to stay until he had completed just translating them into the systems of equations that I knew that he could solve. And sure enough, over the course of the next 15 minutes, off in the other side of the room, he was able to do that. And he never struggled with that type of problem again. I noticed that for each profession, work typically falls into two buckets. There's the work that's meaningful, motivating, and inspiring. It's what we get out of bed in the morning to do. And then there's work that is just toil. It's the work that we have to do. It's trying to put together those practice problems. It's trying to grade as many papers as possible, or trying to come up with a really good rubric. The value of AI, I think, especially in education, is that it can help us to address a lot of the toil that we face. If I had AI at the time that I was working with that student, I could have taken an example word problem and I could have created a bunch more word problems for him to explore. I could have spent time knowing exactly what I wanted to cover with a student and taken an outline of what I wanted and created a really good plan for how to break up my time, how to address each of the students' needs throughout the session. And that's, I think, a challenge that hasn't been so fully addressed previously, at least not in the scope of what my job was as a tutor. AI is powerful because it can replace the work that we do that isn't what's meaningful. It gives us more time to build relationships with our students. It gives us more time to help our students become the adults that we know that they can be. It helps us to build trust, and it helps us to spend more time getting to that aha moment and less time doing all of the supporting work that goes around that. So here I actually have a few examples as well of things that can be accomplished with AI very, very quickly now. This is an example specifically of how I could have used ChatGPT in this exact situation that I found myself in. It would apply to many more similar situations where I can explain to the AI, I'm trying to write word problems for my class. I want the word problems to represent systems of equations, and I provide one example. I ask it to write 10 example questions following that format and to verify that each problem is actually solvable. And it could just generate all of those for me. That would allow me to give my students as a tutor or in other areas of education a more specific regimen of work than I could possibly hope to achieve if I wanted to do it for every single student individually by hand. So that's how I think AI could address a lot of problems in the classroom. Of course, there are also several products out there now, like Conmigo that can help quite significantly in the area of personalized learning, helping students to get all of the support that they need. And there are other areas as well through our product, Parsec Real, which helps use AI to elevate student voices. So I think that the use cases for AI are quite extensive in education, but this is one that would have helped me personally. And I will hand it back to Shay.
Thank you, Tim. All right. Before we get into our breakout sessions, does anyone have any questions for Tim on what he covered? You can put them in the chat, or you can just take yourself off of mute and shout them out. Okay. With that, I'm going to transition into our small discussion group. So we're going to put you guys into breakout sessions. You are going to introduce your name, your charter or district name, and then what you do, and then take some time just to answer this question. If you could pick one challenge for AI to solve that would improve student outcomes, what would it be and why? There will be a Parsec team member in each room just to kind of help guide the conversation. Once we wrap up, we'll all come together and just share some highlights or some moments from your discussions. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you guys had a chance to have good conversation and maybe meet some new people. Before we wrap up, I want to take some time just to hear from everyone. If your group had a really great insight or anything that you want to share with anyone else in the Zoom, go ahead and just share out or drop in the chat. Tim, did your group have anything cool that you shared out?
I thought I don't want to put you on the spot here, Michelle, but I did think Michelle had something pretty interesting to share about a good technique with AI.
So Tim and I both use this really cool technique because I was saying that I've been to webinars where they're trying to teach you how to be this amazing prompter, prompt engineering, and I'm never going to be that. I just not. So one thing you can do is, like, for example, if I want a math lesson on slopes, you can say, I want a math lesson on slopes. Ask me everything you need to know to make me this amazing, engaging lesson. Of course, the more details you put in, the better. But the key is ask AI to ask you what it needs to know.
That's great. That's really great. Thank you for sharing that, Michelle. Anyone else want to share any insights or learnings?
I think one of the things that we emphasized in our group was that we as teachers need to figure out how to teach the kids how to use AI as a tool rather than just as a cheating mechanism, which is currently how they're using it.
Yeah.
So I think if more, districts could put professional development, in to teach teachers how to teach students to use AI,
Yeah.
especially, me as an older student, I'm just kind of getting used to AI myself.
Yeah.
I'd have a hard time teaching a kid how to appropriately use, the AI type thing and what's out there and what you could, how they could use it appropriately.
Yeah, it's really important that that training gets done right. So like you said, we are using it appropriately and not using it for something else. That was great, Karen. Anyone else want to share out before we wrap up? Give you like 30 more seconds.
Can I ask Karen questions, Shay?
Yes, go ahead, Kim.
Karen, I feel like this actually hits on something that I haven't heard from schools yet, but I love this idea, and I'm wondering if I could pick your brain a little bit about it. But like, when you think about it, what resources or supports do you feel like you'd love to ask your admin for to help you help students responsibly use AI?
I think I'd like someone who really knows the AI, space. All the, a lot of the different, tools that are out there, a lot of the different things kind of demonstrate, how you would as a teacher, would teach a kid how to use it appropriately. You know, so for writing, how would an English teacher teach students to use it appropriately? As a math teacher, how would I teach students how to use it appropriately and not just type in the problem and have ChatGPT or whatever spit out an answer?
Yeah.
I had a SPED student who discovered a math solver, and I had to convince her mom that it was not a regular math calculator. It was actually a form of cheating to find because it would write out all the steps for her and everything, but she wasn't really learning it. And I said, you could use it as a tool to help her know how to do other, those similar problems, but not just to answer the questions in her curriculum. And I had to explain that to the parent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I
Yes.
chime in, Kim, real quick? Sorry. Because that reminds me, Karen, so we work with someone named Christian Jackson, who we're trying to actually get on our webinar, and which will keep you guys updated. He actually works with districts and schools and organizations on how to properly use AI. And so he does a lot of trainings on like what that looks like. So what we can do is we can do a follow-up when we get him booked and send it out to all of you guys. I think it would be a great use of time. So yeah.
Right. Not necessarily how teachers can use AI, but how teachers can
Can
teach kids how to
cool,
use
yep,
AI.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kim. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it reminded me of when I was first starting in education about it's been 11 years now. 11 years ago, I started working in a school. And I remember that we brought in a curriculum on how to help students learn about the internet and the dangers of the internet, and like how you could put things on the internet that would ruin your chances for scholarships in the future. But like students didn't think about that kind of stuff. And now I'm pondering, Karen, like to your point, what things are out there to support teachers so that you can teach students kind of similar-ish type things about AI. You have opened my brain up and I love it. And thank you for sharing.
I'll share real quick what we've been talking about with Christian actually, and our leadership team is developing, and I know that like even the Department of Education is sort of pushing this out too, but developing AI standards for students. So what do we want our students to know about AI and to be able to do with AI at every grade level, just like our other academic standards? So I think that's going to be really important too on the horizon.
Thank you for bringing that out, Carlene.
Mm.
Okay, I know we're wrapping up. Were there any last questions or comments before we actually do a wrap up? I want to be cognizant of everyone's time. Okay, if not, want to just give you guys a reminder, next week we'll have Chasmin Moses, who is founder of Life I Love School. She'll be talking about how she used Parsec Reel to gather feedback from her girls to change and improve her program. And then just want to share something that we have for our smaller school partners. We have a special deal that's going on right now. You can get Reel for $9,500 a year, split between 3 schools. That includes onboarding, in-person training, and then also unlimited Reels. If you guys have any questions or if you want to learn more, you can email hello@parseceducation.com and you'll see the email address come through in the chat. And then with that, I want to thank everyone for spending time with us on your Wednesday. If you guys want to be able to share your story or if you want to co-host with us, please send an email to hello@parseceducation.com and we'd love to have you as our guest. But with that, I hope everyone has a really great day and a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next week at the same time. Thank you, everyone.